I just left FEMA, and I think I need to start differently. So, I live in Asheville, and this is home. I've been here most of my life. And we had a really intense year. It wasn't until I was in the FEMA center about an hour ago that I realized that I'm still in shock. And when I've tried to process the experience, I've gotten violently sick, like vomiting, the whole 9 yards, and haven't given myself the opportunity to really grieve yet because I haven't fully processed it. I can't really fully process it until the shock aspect of it's done. Hearing people tell stories of what they experienced, or being in crowds, or really trying to focus in on things is really difficult. When I was sitting at FEMA, it was really overwhelming. It's like when you have a conversation with somebody, you're tuned into them and you're present and you're listening to what they're saying. But when you're in a room full of people, it becomes like a dull roar where it all sort of jumbles in together. And the weird thing is being in an environment like that where people are desperate, people are hurting, people have lost loved ones, people have lost homes, people have lost everything. It's almost like you can pick up on the emotional aspect of what they're saying even though you can't hear it. And while I was sitting there, I was trying to sort of block it out, trying to sort of be present in the moment, trying to not absorb the hurt and the pain that everybody there was experiencing. And hard to do that. I wasn't there for very long. I was maybe there for 10, 15 minutes, but my stomach, I started getting nauseous. This overwhelm, and I don't want to say it was I don't think it was an anxiety attack, but it was definitely the emotional pressure was palpable. Being around my community members and the people who are hurting, it's almost too much to process. It's almost like my higher self or my subconscious whatever is oh, we can't deal with that, we're going back into shock. Just stay numb, we'll get you through this. That's not what I want. I want to be present. I want to be able to process what's been going on, be able to grieve the losses, and be able to be present so I can be present for others too. That makes it hard. When the hurricane happened, and we really started getting an idea of the scale of what had happened, my priority was to try to help maintain morale and give myself and others patience and grace through the aftermath and the recovery efforts and everything else. There have been many times over the past almost 3 months now. Today's the 28th of December, where I've flat out lost hope. And it's been really difficult. Really, really difficult. And I think the hardest part, or I can't say hardest part, I think one of the more difficult parts of it was in the situation that I'm in, I don't qualify for any sort of assistance, not personally or professionally. And when things first went down, people started talking about FEMA and FEMA assistance, and that gave hope, which turned into false hope. Because of my situation, I don't qualify for FEMA assistance or assistance through the Small Business Administration. And the reason I went down to FEMA earlier was to deregister myself for FEMA assistance because it was affecting the claims that my parents had. And I went to FEMA with my dad probably 2 months ago now, and we had sat in front of like a supervisor, and the supervisor was like, if you rent, we can help you. I'm like, I don't rent. Like, I'm, staying at my parents' house through my divorce. She was well-intentioned, but she's like, are you sure that you don't have a rental agreement or a lease? Maybe you could write one up and we could help you. Like, she genuinely wanted to help. And it's like, I don't want to lie. I don't want to be dishonest about anything. If they can't help me, they can't help me. Tell me you can't help me, and I'll go on my way. And I won't waste their time so they can help people who do need help that qualify. And then when I was there today, another supervisor sort of alluded to the same thing. And it's like, I appreciate what you're trying to do, and I know you're doing it for the right reasons, but that's not what I'm capable of doing. So yeah, I deregistered for FEMA because they can't help me. The SBA can't help me because I don't have any employees. And I lost a lot of stuff. And I'm trying to stay positive and proactive. And I know it's all going to work out. But I think the lesson that I'm choosing to take from this is to truly experience and feel and live what it feels like to not have hope. And it's not fun, but I'm grateful that I get to experience what it feels like. If I didn't get the experience to feel hopeless, and I don't even know if hopeless is the right word. It's almost like a mix of lack of motivation, like apathy, and hopelessness and helplessness. It's like, what is the point of me expressing what has happened to me when I know that there is no assistance or support available? Is it worth my time on this earth to sit in that, even though it's a valid experience and my emotions are valid? Or do I just surrender and know that everything's going to work out? Like, I know that there's nothing that anybody can do for me in my situation. That's okay. I've got people that I know who've lost their lives because of this hurricane. I have friends who've lost everything. I have friends who've lost family members. I have friends who've lost friends. I'm incredibly grateful for the now. And I'm incredibly grateful for the way that I've been open to and attempting to process all this. Maybe I'm not supposed to. Maybe I'm not supposed to fully process it yet. And in time I will. But not forcing myself to try to process something that's not ready to be processed. That's not healthy, I don't think. The way that I'm choosing to proceed from here is in gratitude. I'm grateful that I experienced what I experienced and was able to be proud of the way that I handled everything, even while in an active trauma event. There's not a single time that while I was in that event that I would change. I'm proud of all the actions and all the words and all the intentions I had during that and since and before. Part of being on the path that I'm on is experiencing as much as I possibly can so I can truly relate and empathize and be compassionate in situations where others can be, I don't want to say disingenuous. I think that instead of disingenuous, it's more along the lines of with a good intention, they don't have full context of what a person has been through. The irony of being a quote unquote light worker is part of the journey is to go to places where you can't see the light, where hope doesn't exist, where there's nothing but hurt and pain, and to be in that place and dwell in that place, to understand that place, to appreciate that place, and to love that place, and then to find the light within to help guide you out of it so that you're able to show others and teach others how they can do it on their own. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the contrast, because without contrast we have no context of anything. And the more contrast you have, especially within the dark, the brighter things are. So yeah, I'm able to have a unique perspective on the disaster response. Like, I don't want to go out in public right now. I don't want to be around people. I don't want to hear more horror stories of a trauma that I still haven't had time to process. And I'm sure that there's a lot of other people out there like that. I know a lot of people aren't as blessed as I am and have had to ignore the trauma that they're actively still going through and go to work or interact in public. And that's incredibly difficult. The amount of overwhelm of the potential around getting more false hope, like I got from FEMA, which again is not their fault. I appreciate what they're doing for my community, for my family, but for me to put myself in a position to potentially get more false hope of saying, hey, we can help you, is not worth any amount of money or support or assistance. And like right now, like again, being in shock, even if somebody were to come up and say, hey, how much money do you need? It's like, I can't even process that. I can't, or what do you need? I can't process that either. My intention, like right after the hurricane, was just do anything and everything I possibly can to help those who are in need or who are not as fortunate as I am. And again, I know everything's going to work out. Just do. I don't know how. I just know. And if it weren't for that inner knowing, I don't know if I would have made it through. Honestly. So this healing journey that I've been on for 7.5 years, at some point, it converged into some sort of spiritual awakening. And I like to call it my existential opportunity, not crisis. It has been one of the biggest blessings I've ever had. And it has been perfect in every way. There's something that I'm supposed to say, but I'm not exactly sure how to word it. So, I don't care what anybody thinks. Literally, at all. And when you speak your truth, that's the only approach you can take. So, if people think I'm delusional or out of my mind or whatever, let them. So, there's a difference between faith, belief, knowing, and understanding. I have faith and I believe that I am real, but I know and understand that God is. I have more faith and belief that God exists and is very, very real than I do in my own existence. For over 3 years now, I've been really diving deep in my relationship with God. And that's taken me down so many rabbit holes that I'm incredibly blessed to be aware of. And you gotta love the Cheshire Cat shirt while I say that. One of my personal truths is that God is. God is everything, everywhere, everyone, all the time. And I do my best to interact with this world through that lens of love, gratitude, compassion, and empathy. One of the more recent, some people say ideas, some people say inspirations, some people say downloads. One of the more recent downloads that I got was God is wanting to play peekaboo. Divine peekaboo. So hear me out on this. When a baby is born, we call it instinct. How a baby can open its eyes, or flail its arms, or breathe, take its first breath, or hear its first sounds. What my understanding is that it's sort of like God is taking the training wheels and installing them while calibrating our 5 senses to this reality. Then as the baby gets a little older and starts to be able to have cognitive development and processing and starts to develop personality and begins to grow, God sort of God's still there, but sort of like making sure the baby doesn't fall off the bike with the training wheels on. And then a little older, God does the whole like, I'm holding the back of the seat, you're on your own, but still there. Then as we progressively get older, we get the car, and God is in the passenger seat, giving us control, letting us go on our own. Then as we get older, God moves to the back seat and lets us take this journey where we want to take it with our own free will. The thing that people don't understand or take into consideration is, or for some people, like personally, I believe in an infinite, all-powerful, all-knowing God of love. And when I say love in that context, I mean love as in a love that we are unable to process in this human experience. So being an all-aware, all-knowing, ever-present, infinite God, God is aware of not just your words and your deeds, but your thoughts and your intentions, even when those thoughts and intentions aren't expressed. So we are gifted opportunities for growth and development, both spiritually and personally. Because at the end of the game, end of life, when our time here is done, that's all we get to take with us. So in one of the many, many ways that God loves us is through presenting us with opportunities for growth, presenting us with lessons that we have yet to learn, and then gifting us with additional opportunities to show that we've learned the lessons. And when you implement a lesson that you've learned in the past, that is where wisdom comes from. The universe maintains homeostasis and equilibrium through blessings and karma. What we understand as the universe is only a fraction of what exists. We tend to look at the universe purely as physical, and we've been told that if you cannot see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it, it's not valid scientifically. But that negates the validity of human emotion. And in this experience that I'm experiencing, I know that my feelings and emotions are always valid. They might not make sense, but they're always valid. And when I have intuitive, or when my intuition is going off, there's generally an inner knowing of the importance thereof. This video is one of those intuitive things. So being aware that I personally am in the car with God. God's in the back seat. God's fully aware of all my actions, all my words, my thoughts, my intentions, everything. In my reality, everyone has the same experience with God being present. So I know that if I have an emotion or a feeling that's coming up and it doesn't reflect the person that I choose to be, or is not representative of the person that I truly am, it's my responsibility to take the time for self-reflection and process that emotion, to say, hey, why am I feeling this way? What aspects of my life could be triggering this emotion or feeling to come up in this particular way at this time. And I try to do that. And sort of the navigational tools that I use around that is that I know divine plan exists. I don't know what divine plan is. I'm just grateful to be a part of it. And since I know divine plan exists, I know God, and I know God is good, which is an understatement. I know divine love. What could I possibly have to fear? Fear cannot exist within my logic, within the reality that I choose to exist within, because I trust God. If divine plan was, if the small part of divine plan that I was a part of was when I was 5 years old, I held a door open for a person and that made them smile. And that changed the course of their day. I'm completely satisfied. I was completely unaware, I think. Who knows? Or if divine plan is for a meteor to hit me right here and right now. That's divine plan. Thank you. Thank you for this experience of life that I get to take with me. So, with the understanding that fear cannot exist within my reality, I have nothing to fear. And it gives me a warning system, almost. When I hear something, or somebody says something, or the news comes on, it's like, all this is fear. This has no bearing on my life. Why would I let this affect me in any sort of way? I consciously choose not to engage in this. And that's the way I want to live my life. I don't want people in my life who choose fear or choose negativity or thrive in situations where they're able to portray themselves as a victim, or that life is happening to them as opposed to for them. Because I know that if I were to tell God, if I were to ask, I have manners, if I were to ask God to please judge me now and hold me accountable for deeds, words, thoughts, and intentions that were not aligned with who I choose to be and who I authentically am, I would not have any fear in that. And I've done that. I've been working on a philosophy. I'm still trying to figure out how to do it without it being inaccessible to people who want it or need it. I'm getting there. Probably need to play around with the name a little, because right now it's our dude of the perpetual paradox, and the sort of the mission is to give people guidance so they'll go away. Yeah. It's like an anti-cult or anti-religion, because one of the things that I've found is that, how do I phrase it? The God that I know and love, and that loves me, how can an infinite God be defined by a single truth? My understanding is that all faiths, spiritual practices, and religions that are centered in love are true, that don't instill fear, that respect the autonomy and free will of a person without manipulation. Those are the many, many, many roads to God. And there's more. But a path to God, and again, God knows your unhealed and your potentially healed intentions behind every word and action that you do and thought. So going to church or being a good person out of fear of hell or the promise of heaven, unless it's truly authentic, it's it's going to be very interesting when from the back seat God taps you on your shoulder, divine peekaboo, and confronts you about what you have chosen to do with your life and your free will. In one of the experiences that I had with God, it was truly indescribable. The small amount of love that I felt like it was going to rip my chest apart. I don't remember if it was this experience or a different one, but there was this just like a second awareness was present or adjacent to my current awareness. And everything in my life didn't matter. All of my wants, hopes, dreams, desires, gone. The only thing I wanted was, how can I serve? So yeah, I'm grateful for being gifted the experience to understand hopelessness, helplessness, apathy, or maybe personal apathy, like just didn't matter. What can I do for others? I'm grateful for the isolation and the divine timing around everything, and the inner knowing that I have immense gratitude for that. I'm grateful for the opportunities to show myself who I am in the situations that have presented themselves. I'm grateful for the wisdom that I've acquired because of the lessons that I was gifted. I'm grateful for the discernment that I've developed and have demonstrated because of what the lessons have taught me. I'm incredibly grateful and thankful for the learning of self-worth, self-respect, and self-love. So, based on all of that, it still doesn't matter what anybody thinks. If I'm delusional or out of touch, could not care less. I live in gratitude. I'm loved. I love myself. I don't have to pretend to be somebody else. I've experienced an amazing life that has given me immense context for the contrast that is about to come. The divine plan is perfect, by definition, and I'm just grateful to be a part of it. Thank you all, and thank all of me.